Greetings, music lovers. I'm Roger Bowie. Aujourd'hui, j'ai le plaisir de vous introduire Sonia et Nigel. That's Sonia Wilson and Nigel Gavin. This is a rap with Roger. And my hesitant French comes from being a francophile for most of my life, and the fact that my French is these days more rusty than rustic. Now, Sonia, why am I mumbling around in demi-francais?
Well, it's a pleasure to hear you mumbling in demi-francais.
Okay.
So it's connected to the fact that we're here celebrating the recent release of our book and CD, Suite Paname. Paname being a nickname for the city of Paris, where I come from. So this is a book and le CD inside.
I've got mine.
We've got it in stereo.
It's almost a relic. It's a beautiful booklet about the songs of your youth and even the most recent ones, and eclectic art, and of course another anachronism, the humble CD. But my CD's in my car.
That's a good sign.
That's the only place it can go these days.
So yeah, I'm originally from France, and people might wonder why I don't sound more French. It's because my parents are both American, and Nigel is not French, but he's very talented at playing French music, so it works for me. He's originally from Long Island.
Long Island, but my mother was Quebecois from Montreal, so
there you go.
A little bit of French, especially when I was in trouble. She would revert to the French language.
Well, we're all francophiles then, huh? Monsieur Nigel, enchanté de faire votre connaissance. That's very pleased to meet you at last. I don't know how you've avoided me so successfully these last 60 years or so.
Who knows? It just the time is right.
But you and Nigel Gavin are a legend in your own right, a Nairobist, a Jew brother, a member of 11 bands, I'm told, and once in a lifetime ago, a collaborator with Robert Fripp. How was that?
Oh, well, it was good. We played together for 2 years. We traveled around in a group called the League of Crafty Guitarists.
Right.
And because he'd heard about what I was doing in New Zealand with the group called the Gitbox Rebellion,
yeah,
he thought the parallel was so uncanny with what he was doing in America and Europe that he called me up and said, "This is really interesting." And he offered to come out to New Zealand, and we had to put a workshop on to pay for his trip. And he didn't realize how long it took to get from London to New Zealand in the days. So he's never been back since. And then I went, and then he said, after the workshop, he said, "Would you come back to US and teach my group some of your songs?" So I, okay, really? Then I went back to the US, and then he said, "Oh, we're doing a national tour in 2 weeks. Do you want to just join the group?" So then we toured the States and Europe for a couple of years.
Cool.
And came back and getting Gitboxes going again.
And are you still in touch with Robert Fripp?
Less so these days. I visited him about 10 years ago in England, and he's retired but playing with his wife at the moment, Toya Wilcox.
Yeah, I get the odd brunch with Robert and Toya, which are always a scream. Okay, well that's fantastic. I'm sure not many people are aware of that. Sonia, French music, French folk music is instantly recognizable, and when you open your mouth to sing in French, you're nothing else but French. But the music, it stands apart. Chanson is that a little bit of a simplification in terms of a genre? How would you describe it?
I think we're a little bit of a hybrid musically. We bring in a lot of influences because we've both been travelers, and my background musically is actually in a cappella world music. So I was never really stuck in one language or in one culture. Musically, this is kind of the first time I take on a project that's really a tip of the hat to that one musical culture. But within French music, there's such a wealth of other cultures coming into play as well. So I think chanson is is a nice term in the context of releasing an album of French music in New Zealand.
Yeah.
If I was in France, I probably wouldn't call it that necessarily, because there are aspects of pop music, there are aspects of folk music, there are aspects of jazz.
Yes, yes,
kind of straddling a few
yes,
genres.
yes. But without being pejorative, it sounds beautifully old. Even the new songs, you know, I mean, you feel like you're in the 60s Paris, and maybe that's just our grown-up memories, or on the river, and occasionally you're diving deep down into a subterranean jazz bar, and it's magic. How did you choose the songs?
So it's a project that has a lot to do with, on the one hand, a feeling of nostalgia that became more present in me during the lockdown period. And that was the time during which I was working on this project. So there was an aspect of kind of yearning and longing for the first time really in my life for that sense of home. Because before moving to New Zealand, I was very much a world traveler, and home was a kind of malleable concept and wasn't necessarily tied to Paris itself or to French culture. And suddenly here on the other side of the world, because I'm French and because I'm a singer, there was this kind of expectation of, oh, you must be a French singer, you know, since you're a singer and you're from France. And it was in starting to honor requests that we were receiving when playing live, you know, the main ones like La Vie en Rose, La Mer, Françoise Hardy, things like this that I had never sung, that I started to craft this collection of songs. So it started off with requests coming from the audience, and then that kind of led me to explore a little bit more about what those songs mean, why they're so loved, and then starting to develop affection for them myself. And the reason I wanted to have the book with it was to share a little bit more about the context of why each of those songs is meaningful. So the journey begins with this song here that my mother did the artwork for. Yeah. And it was a song written by a man called Bruno Morelli. I had met him when I was about 15 years old, and we had a conversation. I was very much into theater. And so when I was about 15, 16 years old, he surprised me by writing a set of lyrics to a conversation we had had about the theme of identity and, you know, playing parts in the theater, but then trying to find out who you are underneath all the masks kind of thing. And he wrote a set of lyrics as a gift to me, and that started the whole journey, the foray into writing melodies, into writing songs, and exploring a little bit more about my own musical identity. So that's the starting point. And then I wanted to mix this kind of nostalgic, recognizable Parisian feeling musically with some more upbeat, more modern things like La Seine, which also has a really beautiful illustration by a local young artist called Lucy Blaze, who's doing a lot of wonderful, there it is, it's the double pager. So she's done some really wonderful Parisian-inspired illustrations. She's doing a lot of work on celebrating female creativity here in Auckland, and hosts a bunch of talks with different creative women on different art forms. So yeah, just kind of mixing it up, some more famous nostalgic material, some original songs and collaborations with Bruno Morelli in Paris. And
that
then
that opening song, Ma Vie en Jeu, is a delightful play on words, which if you don't understand the French, you wouldn't necessarily get it.
That's true. So it's my life in play on the one hand, and my life at stake on the other. And it's about stepping onto the stage, and, you know, really kind of, it's that carpe diem feeling of seizing the day and daring to play a part in your own life.
And deciding to play.
And it's looking at the whole history of women in theater. Yeah.
And there's also a song that you wrote while you were traveling was it in Nepal? Did I get that right? Maybe I didn't get that right.
Okay.
I think you're thinking of Champs-Élysées, which is one of the famous
Oh, that's when you started to sing it.
Yeah, I did a 2-year round the world trip and spent 5 months in Nepal and had a Nepalese band. I've had a few chapters in my musical journey. And ironically, I ran into a singer who used to be in the same 9-piece female a cappella choir that I was in Paris. She happened to be traveling in Nepal. We bumped into each other, and she was really into playing ukulele. And so it was in Nepal that I started playing ukulele. And I'm now teaching about 5 different adult groups of ukulele here in Auckland. So
Fantastic.
life is kind of funny how it brings things into play.
The other thing that stands out, and of course, which is very typically French, is the other instruments, the accordion and the fiddle. And you've got some marvelous guest musicians on the album as well.
Yeah, that we've got Tracy Collins on accordion. We've got 2 violinists on the album, Pascal Rokin from Albie and the Wolves, and also Anna Bowen, who's based down in Dunedin. So I should say the album is produced by a wonderful producer named John Egenes, who's currently having a bit of a fame spree because it turns out his book is featured in the Barbie movie. Quite random.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah, he rode across the States on a horse
in the 1970s.
In the 70s on a horse called Gizmo. And he wrote a really wonderful book. I recommend the book. I think it's Man and His Horse. And
at least the horse had a name.
Yeah, yes. That's right. And it was one horse for that whole journey, so it was pretty amazing. And the Barbie actress gifted the book to Ken as a joke because the title was so manly, although the book has nothing macho about it. And apparently the actor read it and really adored the book and decided to carry it around in the movie. Quite a funny story for a music producer living down in Dunedin in Port Chalmers.
Well, you got to work hard to get lucky.
That's right.
And so, Nigel, how many different instruments are you playing? Because you're the
on this album I play mostly the 7-string, which is sitting just here. This is made in New Zealand by Laurie Williams of Cowrie.
Right.
And I also play ukulele, at least on one of the tracks of Mi Viange.
My Viange, yeah.
And I think that's it. Yeah, so mostly when we play as a duo, I play this most of the time, and she's on the ukulele. Yeah. She plays guitar on half the tracks as well.
So, folks, if you haven't heard Nigel play guitar, then I just picked this out from my collection. I've got to put this on the case. Django Reinhardt, one of the greats, and there's a little bit of Al Di Meola there too in your style.
Well, I suppose so. I remember seeing him as a kid.
You would have seen him, yeah. Did you meet him in New York?
I met John McLaughlin. I never met Al Di Meola.
Right.
But
so yes, so there's some beautiful pieces of art. And have you thought about an exhibition?
I have thought about an exhibition. I don't have currently access to all the originals, but I could ask the artists. In some cases, could ask the artists to send them. But I think just making big prints of the different pieces could be an idea.
Yeah, because I mean, this is not cheap to put together, and you've only done a certain number of them, and now people are listening to the digital without getting the overall experience. So it would be fabulous to be able to continue to get the whole experience in some way.
It's the seed is planted.
The seed is planted. You've heard it here, folks. We got as a scoop for you today. So what does happen next? Are you going on tour? Are we going to see you around about various places?
So we've done a South Island tour celebrating the release of Sweet Penham. There are quite a few parts of the North Island that I haven't really visited yet. So I'd love to put together a tour of the North Island. I haven't quite done that yet. It's been a little bit of a naive journey of learning as I go, because I had no prior experience in releasing an album or writing a book or self-publishing a book or creating the website. And I've done all these things, you know, kind of ticking through, or the digital release. Most recently, we've had a digital release through DRM, which was on the 15th of July, New Zealand time, 14th of July, French time, because I wanted to honor Matariki on the 14th.
Yeah.
So we had a celebration of that. I think looking forward, we want to continue to celebrate this project, and we're also broadening our horizons and looking towards celebrating the kind of multicultural aspects of our shared music.
We have a trio with Tracy Collins too, which is called Bleu Blanc Rouge.
Yeah, and we have a gig next week.
Yeah, we have something. A gig came up last night at a place called Botticelli's in Takapuna
On Wednesday.
on Wednesday. So if you find yourself in Takapuna,
Yeah. Okay.
I'm also looking into potentially, as a longer term project over the next couple of years, possibly retraining or continuing my training to look into becoming a music therapist.
Yeah.
So that's an interest that lies ahead. But at the moment, we're playing gigs, teaching. We've both got a lot of students, and just enjoying the gifts of music.
Well, New Zealand is by far a better place with you both here, and Auckland's not that big a difference. There's not much difference between Auckland and New York and Paris, is there? I mean,
not anymore. It used to be.
yeah, that's true. Auckland has grown up. I was a little bit cynical with my comment, but it is true. We have grown up. Folks, yeah, if you're in Takapuna next Wednesday, go check Sonia and Nigel out and try and get hold of this online, and then look out for the total experience, which we've just given.
You can get the hard copy at Marbeck's as well.
Oh, you can still get a hard copy at Marbeck's. Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
it's nice to see people still buying real things.
It is nice to see people.
We appreciate it.
Buying.
We also have a website called sonianigelmusic.com that people can look at, and you can contact us on there. We're happy to
And Facebook.
play gigs, obviously, and you can also contact us if you want a copy of the
Hard
product.
copy.
We can get it to you, and we're really grateful for the work you're doing, Roger. You're doing amazing work, bringing awareness and attention to all kinds of different musicians and reviewing shows, and it's much appreciated.
I love my non-job.
Yeah.
Folks, we're going to wrap it up right now, and thanks to Sonia and Nigel, and really encourage you to go listen to some beautiful music, mostly in French. There's some English as well, and we look forward to seeing Sonia and Nigel live very soon, close to home.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
À bientôt.
Je vous en prie, à bientôt.
Bonne journée.